Hello, and welcome to this edition of the Angels and Destiny Show. Why is this show called this, you may ask? So I'll tell you. The accepted meaning of angel is messenger, and the accepted meaning of destiny is to make firm establish. So my guests and I bring you messages to establish what you need to know in the present. And of course, I like working with angels and the calmness they bring. Now, in a moment, I will introduce you to my wonderful guest, Sarah Thomas. But before that, I would like to say thank you so much for watching the show live at a later date, as it means a lot to both Sarah and me for you to join us and for us to connect with like-minded people. Now, if you've never met me before, then my name is Ray, and I'm a guide who helps you remember your divine presence so that you can heal your past, create your future, and transform your present and expand your consciousness, understand your spiritual path, and take charge of your destiny so that you can feel your purpose. Now, I'm the founder of Radiant Angel Energy, and through divine presence and everything else I offer, I guide you to remember why you are here, your spiritual path, and the clarity of the next steps to take to fulfill your purpose. Now, each episode of this show covers various themes of your journey, a mini guide meditation or angel oracle card reading with the wisdom of my wonderful guests, like today's guest, Sarah Thomas, about crystals and the birth of authenticity. And as Sarah says, authenticity is finally becoming who you already are. Perhaps all a spiritual awakening is simply starting where you are and letting yourself be. It's simple, and it's also the most profound thing that could happen to us. In many ancient shamanic traditions, crystals and stones are not only used for healing, but spiritual transformation. So were stones and crystal tools used for these initiates? Do they carry special encodements that may assist us in walking with our deeper authenticity? In this conversation, we'll be exploring the specific stones and crystals that can help you attune to the birth of authenticity within you and why they work. Now, Sarah is a healer and educator who owns Clarity Acupuncture in southern Appalachia, and I've probably pronounced that wrong, so I do apologise, and is the lead instructor and founder of the Appalachia School of Stone Medicine. After performing over 10,000 stone and acupuncture hybrid treatments at her Asheville Acupuncture Clinic, the stones guided Sarah beyond the body and onto the earth. Sarah works with the chi of the land, power spots and mountains, crystals and grids. And Sarah developed North Carolina's first studies in mineral healing program at Appalachia School of Holistic Herbalism, teaches yearly at Earth Medicine conferences across the US, and founded the Upper Clarity School of Stone Medicine, where stonalists, I like that, from all over the world can train through the Taoist tradition. Sarah's own Tao is to resurrect the vast knowledge and uncharted potentials of healing and awakening with the stones and crystals, which is absolutely amazing. So without further delay, hello, Sarah, and welcome to the Angels and Destiny Show. How are you today?
Hello, Ray. I'm doing great. Thanks for the intro.
You're welcome. So before we get into this fascinating conversation, I want to remind you that not only can you share this video, but you can also ask questions, leave comments and thoughts, as both Sarah and I want to be part of this conversation. So please don't be shy. And I can see that Graham is here already. So hi, Graham. Great to see you. So Sarah, why don't you tell us more about your journey and how we can use crystals to find our authenticity?
Well, I wanted to talk with you about this today because I've really been deepening, and I feel like I go through these cycles, but I've been deepening my focus on authenticity and looking at that from all different sides and angles, and thinking about, because I'm 44 years old now, and sometimes I think that we gain wisdom as we grow up, and I feel like I've learned that the spiritual beings are really just people that let themselves be who they are. And you take this whole journey, and you take on all these spiritual personalities, or all different types of personalities, healer personalities, teacher personalities, all these personalities that we take on, mother, nurture, all the roles that we take on. And I mean, the self, any given person has hundreds of personalities because that's the nature of the self. And then as we grow up and gain wisdom and purify, I think that I'm finding that we drop a lot of those spiritual personalities, and we actually just become who we are. And I find that the people that I resonate with, the people that I'm drawn to, the people that I find magnetic, interesting, the people that are making big like ripples in the world, it's like they actually just have started to let themselves become who they are. And so I'm interested in that path. And I really work with crystals to reflect that and to work with that in myself.
Yeah. So how did you get into crystals? I mean, some people, you know, have been with them since they were children. Other people come into them later in life. So how did you get into crystals?
Well, I just liked them. I have to say I just liked them. So there was affinity, and I would always like to go to the crystal store and get crystals, and I would give crystals as gifts, and I could not stop staring at them. And I would often get someone a crystal as a gift, and then I would take it back for myself. I'd say, this actually, I think you're not paying enough attention to this. I'll take it back. I did that with a particular Herkimer diamond. Then my life this was like in college. I was like 19, 20 years old. And then I transitioned into a healer. I was an artist and I became a healer. And this was destiny. I just got pulled into the healing path and I went to acupuncture school. It felt like it happened overnight. And in acupuncture school, I felt very at home, almost like I had been doing it for many, many lifetimes. Like there was a confidence in me around healing that was really almost like strange because I didn't know any acupuncturists growing up or know anything about that. You know, I just started receiving acupuncture in college and it woke me up and awakened me in many ways. And because acupuncture is the movement of chi on the body through these little stainless steel needles, what we find is that in the past they were actually using crystals as the acupuncture needles because they didn't have acupuncture needle factories. You know, they had little pieces of mica and little pieces of flint and little pieces of tourmaline and little pieces of obsidian. And they found that the crystals could absorb, store, and transmit chi and power throughout the body. And this is exactly what they were doing on the land. They were finding these power spots on the land and then absorbing, storing, and transmitting energy through conductors like quartz, for example. So in acupuncture school, I realized that I was really on the path of learning about stones and crystals. And I started a deep, deep study with stones and crystals that lasts to this day and will probably never end, in working with stones and crystals along with the acupuncture needles. Most treatments that I've done in my life over all these years are a mix of acupuncture needles and crystals. So I get to see the difference of how these work as healers.
Yeah. So do you actually use the because I'm quite fascinated. So obviously with the needles they go into the skin, but I'm guessing with the crystals they just put on the points.
Yeah, and that's I know that's not even a dumb question at all. That's such a great question, because the crystals, you know, I have memories. I'm going to go out on a limb and be kind of weird, but I have past life memories of actually driving the crystals into the skin, like trying to figure out how to provoke the chi with the crystals. And we would do all kinds of things in the past. I'll just speak with authority about my past lives, but like if you were trying to get change through a crystal, you would crush it up, eat it, put it in your ears, put it in your butt. I mean, like you would try everything, right? Like maybe I'll put it in
Yeah.
my eyes. There was everything. So in the past, I think there was a lot of like you know, moving things in the body in a way that might even like leave a bruise, or scratch, you know. But now, of course, we can just put the crystal on the body. We don't have to push or anything. And for anybody who's listening to this, an acupuncturist or even somebody who's received it, even though we put those needles into the skin, it's so funny because sometimes you're going up to put it in and you'll feel the chi jump out of the body and jump right into the needle before you even get to the body.
Wow.
Yeah, and it will come right up into my body. Like the movement is so interesting. It's like these metal needles are conductors, but we're working with not just electromagnetic energy, we're working with scalar energy or unified field energy so it can jump out and get there before you even start and things like that. So I think it doesn't have to go in, and the crystals do that. They pull the energy and move it without them having to go in.
Wow, that's I never even thought about that they, you know, because obviously metal is conductors, but I'd never ever thought they would just literally just jump out. And that's a new thing on me. So I wonder what happens when you get tattoos. See, that's always fascinated me with sort of like you're putting uh pinpricks really in your skin, but that's sort
Mhm.
of like something else. But then But then I suppose technically that is sort of like a form of healing, depending. I could imagine in the past that maybe when people had the tattoos, that was kind of like a healing for them or moving energy. Just,
Yeah, I bet all kinds of rites and rituals were done with that, stamping the body, making, yeah, and things that were probably not super easy to go through.
yeah, yeah.
Initiations of sorts.
Yeah, well, Graham's got a question, which is, as crystals are Earth magnetically orientated, do you have to allow position realignment before use on a person? Because he knows he is strongly affected by crystal alignment magnetically.
As crystals are earth magnetically oriented, do you have to allow position realignment before use on a person? You know, I know what you're asking, Graham, and no, I think that what happens is because we're working on bodies, I think the body takes on that kind of that becomes that conduit of that magnetic charge into the earth, and then the crystals feel the body and they kind of do their own orientation, especially if it's something that actually has like the ability to be magnetized, like lodestone or hematite or something. But I think that's happening automatically for me. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That sounds good. Makes no sense to me. You know, I just know when I pick up a crystal, I'll know which crystal is for me because I'll feel the energy
Mhm.
um, from it, and it'll be like, oh yeah, that's the one that's coming home with me. Or in others, you pick up and you go, no, I'm not quite sure about that one.
Yeah, I think that really is the beginning, the middle, and the end of the entire process. Like when you have that intuitive connection, you don't really need more than that, you know?
Yeah. So how you know how can we use crystals, you know, for to find out authenticity? Because obviously there are thousands of crystals out there, and I'm guessing new ones are found every year. And that and it's kind of like, how do people work out what they mean, how they work?
Yeah, well, let's talk about that. So, authenticity, I feel like is telling the truth to ourselves about ourselves. And on any different day, I would give you a different definition of authenticity. I feel like there's so many ways to approach what this is. Today, I'm going to say is telling the truth to ourselves about ourselves. We don't have to worry about telling the truth to the outside because when we tell the truth to ourselves about ourselves, it automatically filters to truth on all levels, outside, everywhere. It's like the core is to tell the truth to ourselves about ourselves. And I think that that process starts with us becoming conscious of where we're not. You know, we become conscious of the little lies, the little stories, the little cover ups, the self does, the little things like that we try to be, the little ways that we don't feel that we're enough, maybe. So we try to be something more through this, that, or the other. And we start to become conscious of that. But how do we start to become conscious of that? And one of the earth's offerings is through crystals and as mirrors. So if you look at mica, mica has been used as a mirror in many ancient cultures. In fact, I know up in South Dakota, where I work with a fellow that works with crystals from the Power Spot up in South Dakota, the indigenous people in that area, when the lakes are frozen over, which is often they couldn't see themselves at all. So mica was their mirror. That was how they saw themselves, like literally. And people from all over the world have used mica as a mirror, but they also use obsidian as a mirror. And you know, if obsidian's very highly polished, you can see a perfect reflection of yourself in it. And so, what the ancient Taoists talk about is these law of signature kind of reflections, meaning that there's a metaphor in this. If you look in the white mirror, mica, and this is true because if you do it, if you scry with mica, you start to see what is godly about you. You start to see what is good about you. Like you start to see why you're worthy. You know, you begin to see those things, and the things that are blocking that come to the surface. So you become conscious of them. And that's the beginning and the middle and the end of the process of purifying from those things. And if you look in obsidian like the black mirror, you get to see your shadow side. So for all cultures, it's like you get to look in the dark mirror to see your shadow side, to see what's hidden in all those corners, those things that we stuff into the darkness. And so people use obsidian all the time to scry. They look into balls and discs, and you start to see the dark side of things. And if you think about working with these two crystals to really just get clear with yourselves, like let yourself actually see who you are. Don't always call yourself bad, right? And like we're so hard on ourselves. Look into mica and see why you're good. Like let yourself see that good godly piece of who you are, like, and look into obsidian and let yourself confront, the challenges and the shadow side. And you can see, for those of you listening, you're like, this is not very Taoist, because this is also good, bad, right, and wrong. This is all polarity, good, bad, right, and wrong. Well, the earth allows us to play in polarity, but then it offers an even cooler solution, because what you find beyond good, bad, right, and wrong is pure, clear quartz. Pure, clear quartz. And what you get when you look into pure, clear quartz is this neutrality. You get non-biased judgment, and no judgment at all. You get this non-biased approach. You get this non-biased lens. We call it neutrality. And in that, what is there is transparency. And transparency is a very, 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 very high vibe. Transparency is something that comes from beyond right and wrong. It comes from beyond good and bad. And if you can look into that and see transparency, it's like you evolve, but beyond even calling yourself good or bad. So that's like a really beautiful heightened state. And I might even say that authenticity is actually when we let that transparency really like become a part of our lives, because it's a frequency, it's a transmission.
Yeah. So I suppose that's one of the reasons why people are so attracted to quartz. Clear quartz really is one of those stones that I think most people, if they're starting to get crystals, always tend to go for clear quartz first of all,
Mhm.
because it does seem to be that neutrality stone, doesn't it?
Yeah, neutrality, and there's so much versatility in that, and it's like you end up just getting to see your other stones clearly. You get to see yourself clearly. I always say that imagine if you had a therapist and you were deciding whether or not you were gonna get a divorce, right? And your therapist kept saying, "I think you should. I think that person's not very good." Like, you're getting this biased opinion. And then you maybe go to another therapist and they're like, "No, you should stay, you should stay, you should stay." And it's very biased. But when you find a good therapist, what are they doing? They're giving you that neutrality. They're not judging, they don't have a bias. And true Taoists, we actually not we I mean, I'm not even gonna put myself in that category. I aspire to be, but they don't have a bias. They don't call the world good, bad, right, or wrong. It is what it is. And that's authenticity.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way of actually looking at everything. And if you can try and have that view, it'll probably save you a lot of stress and worry and
Yeah.
everything else that goes on in the world. So apart from micro obsidian and quartz, what other crystals are really good for us to work with to actually help us with our authenticity? Because I know that sometimes life really does get in the way. You might be on this most beautiful path, neutrality, etc., and then something will just come in and it's like, oh, what do I do now? And that, and there's so many different people go, well, use that crystal, use that crystal, use that crystal. That I
Mhm.
think sometimes it get a little bit confusing.
Absolutely. If you want to go beyond the little mirror piece that we've been talking about, we absolutely can, and we can look at it another way. Um, and right before we talk about the crystals, I just want to remind you guys how important, because you have to choose authenticity, and it's not this destination. It's really just this orientation, and you never like arrive, but it can be this way that you're oriented. And I remind people of how to choose that orientation, because if you have authenticity, you can do the tiniest little prayer and it will have these enormous ripples in the world. Like the divine, the spirits, they can't resist it. They cannot resist your authenticity. And so it's if you have this 2-minute little prayer that's authentic from your heart, going to talk about the heart in a second because this is where this all comes from, right? The birth of authenticity is in the heart. But it has more power than somebody else doing a 3-day ceremony with every bell and whistle, with 100 people there, who's not aligned, who's not in an authentic place, right? It's amazing the power that authenticity has. That's what I keep picking up too. It's like, not only does it have power, but it allows us to start where we are. I mean, I can have authenticity any moment. I can always find it in the present moment. I don't have to be somebody else. That's so cool to me. I don't have to try to be somebody who's studied 100 years at the way to give this ceremony. It's like I can put power through this whole ley line through my authenticity. And so I spoke about the heart for a second because it always arises from the heart and in the present moment. You can always find it there. Now, there's a color associated with that. And in the ancient Taoist understanding, the color associated with the heart and with authenticity is red. They found that this color has a lot of power and that it always points back to the true essence of a thing. It points back to, like, if you burned off all the bullshit that you are, like all the bullshit that you tell and say and everything, your essence would remain. It's like,
Yeah.
what is actually your true essence? Now, that normally has the color red associated with it, and red is actually the most rare stone mineral color on Earth.
Okay.
So we can look at red stones to resonate with and activate the heart and that authenticity.
Which is really interesting because most people suggest pink stones or pink green stones rather than red stones.
Yeah, definitely green. People talk about green for the heart, and I'm not against it because some people, it's like that's the chakra color for the heart and everything. And pink in Taoist understanding is a mix of red and white. Well, in all understanding it is. So you get that resonance. And we do use stones like rose quartz and morganite to activate authenticity. Anything with red in it. You can use your watermelon tourmaline, pink tourmalines, red stones. Cinnabar is huge. Obviously, in the past, cinnabar was such a big stone.
Yeah, because it's quite difficult, to get hold of rubies.
Yeah.
Which is the stone most people associate with red.
And, ruby was the stone that was used to elicit the most power. And that's because red is so powerful, and red is so powerful because the heart is so powerful, because authenticity is so powerful. This is where this all kind of comes back to.
That
But it
is,
is expensive.
yeah, no, it is. And Janeki said, I love that definition of authenticity. And Laura agrees. Yeah, it's 100%. And yeah, the crystals do seem to call us when we go along. And also, I personally noticed, I don't know if anyone else notices, but you could have a crystal one day and then you go to look for it the next day and it's gone, and you're like, where'd that go? And
It's
that
happened a lot.
it's like it's gone. Okay, I don't need you anymore. Or no, sorry, you don't need me anymore.
Mhm. Yeah, I hear so many from students, so many stories of that. Why didn't it just disappeared, or it just broke, or it just changed color? What is going on?
So that is such an amazing thing with that. So how do you work with your students? Do you just teach, or do you actually do healings with them? How do you work with it on a daily basis?
Well, in my role as an acupuncturist and stone medicine crystal person, I do healings with private clients. But as a teacher, I just teach. So we've done everything from people coming out and going rock hounding in the Appalachian Mountains, which you actually said correctly,
Oh,
um,
good.
and all the way to online classes and certification courses, and pretty much every way to study and learn. So people, if they're beginners, they'll kind of tap in, or I actually work with really advanced practitioners too. People have been doing healing for decades or working with Chinese medicine for decades, because we all still have so much to learn. Basically, we're all like, there is so many crystals out there and there are so many things going on that there's no end to it.
That's so it's just, it's so mind blowing, I think, actually, because we think we know crystals, because there's so much written about them. People are always talking about them, but really there's a lot more. They're a lot more deeper and more connected to ancient times than we actually give them credit for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we get stuck in the crystal revolution of the 70s, and we forget that there was many really tapped in ancient cultures in the past working with stones in very, very high vibrational ways. Like not just like, oh, I'm going to throw a crystal at this person, like big time tapped into fifth dimensional technologies.
Yeah, which is quite interesting. Because obviously nowadays we talk about going, raising the vibration to the fifth dimension, and things are moving that way. So, what sort of crystals do we use for that? What did they use in the past, and do we know why they stopped using them?
Oh yeah, actually, I'll answer your second question first. So they didn't really stop, but there was a couple things that happened that made it kind of go more underground. And one was that people started to poison themselves with stone medicine elixirs. And when people were searching for immortality or transcendence in kind of a blunt way, and emperors were asking magicians and sorcerers and medicine people and martial artists to try to come up with an elixir of immortality, which still goes on today in North Korea, by the way. Um, they would crush up all these minerals and drink them and take them, and people would die of heavy metal poisoning or have really advanced aging. And so there was a time that everybody was like, stone medicine is too dangerous. But along with that, they were saying stone medicine is too potent, because there was also really powerful things going on with you all know it. You get a lot of power when you work with crystals correctly. You see it in all the cartoons and all the sci-fi. Like, what is at the heart of every cartoon, or at the end of the movie, there's like some crystal, right? They're
Yeah,
very powerful. But things kind of fell away when people got scared of them because of heavy metal poisoning. And then there was another thing that happened that at one point, China tried to be more like the West, and it stopped being as quote unquote woo woo and spiritual, and it wanted to be more scientific. A plus B equals C. And that was really in the 50s, 60s, 70s. And that was like another kind of blow to stone medicine, because it was seen as kind of like too woo woo. Oh, and then you asked about fifth dimensional energies. I don't know if you want me to talk about that
yeah.
too.
No, go ahead.
Okay. um, you know, I think I said, and when you asked me to come on the show and said, "What do you want to talk about?" I think I wrote in that little paragraph that, like, I said, I think that actually what we're kind of finding out is that all of spirituality is really, at the end of the day, it's just becoming who you are. It's like becoming who you already were. And so for me, like for us as humans, which is so important, our awakening is so important. I think it's more, instead of like a journey outward to the stars or some higher dimension, it feels like it's more a journey inward, like telling the truth to ourselves about ourselves, like bringing it all within. And then we sometimes, and at some point, we're going to be like, I actually accept who I am. I feel okay with who I am. And then suddenly you're in the present moment and you're enlightened right in that moment. It's true. Like in the present moment, you're enlightened and you're there. As far as crystals and these fifth dimensional technologies, they are really good at conducting this energy that is beyond the electromagnetic spectrum. They can conduct and pull in this higher frequency that I call it scalar energy. But we found, as we approach kind of quantum physics, we started to find out as humans that quartz plays a big part in conducting scalar energy. Gold plays a big part. And the crystals are really full of these monatomic elements that can kind of reach from this realm into other realms and back. So crystals are a huge key in working with other worlds and working with other dimensions. As you all know, that's what we're all doing when we have crystals. It's like we're trying to tune into something from another world or from another dimension, which is exactly why there's crystals in our pineal gland and beyond in our
Yeah.
bodies.
Yeah. So talk about that, the crystals in our pineal gland and in our bodies, for those that aren't actually quite sure about that.
Okay. So the crystals in our pineal gland are, it's very much like, I hope you're old enough that you at one point had a radio dial that you could turn the radio dial and like tune into different stations on the radio dial. And it would be like something would come in clear and then it would go psh, and then something would come in clear and then it go psh. So
Yeah.
this is what the crystals are doing all the time. They're like sensing and tuning into all of these worlds, all of these vibrational frequencies, and they're looking for this coherent signal. And the pineals or the crystals in our pineal gland are doing exactly that. It's calcite crystals and magnetite crystals, and there's some apatite crystals in there, and they're kind of seeking out these messages and frequencies from the field of all possibility. But they don't just receive, they also transmit. So we can actually hook up our heart and our breath to the crystals in our pineal gland and put out a really clear, coherent message. And through the crystals, right? Because the crystals transduce them to make it coherent and make it reach all these other worlds and dimensions. And then that's kind of one of the ways that we actually tune into possibilities in the field of all possibility. It's like we can move our own heart manifestation thought into those other worlds and connect with them because these crystals are transducing this energy. Um, physically, they're moving mechanical energy like the breath and piezoelectrically changing it into electrical energy so that we can reach those other worlds. So the piezoelectric effect is how it happens mechanically, but it's so much more than that because it's not just the electromagnetic spectrum. So it's like we can give and receive energy, messages, frequency with other worlds through the crystals in our pineal gland. That's why they're there, I believe.
Okay, that is so fascinating, and interesting. So how do we do that? You know, how do we connect our heart to our pineal gland, to those crystals?
You know, honestly, what you asked, and I hope there's some people that listen to this or hear, but that question is Dr. Joe Dispenza's work speaks exactly to that question. He's a meditation teacher, for those of you that don't know, and his entire work is the answer to that question. How we get in resonance with our heart. We have to go within, right? We have to go within and get in resonance with our heart. We have to calm down, and then we can like feel our way up into coherent thought. So it's a linking of the heart and the brain. And then we can start to send out these messages and also receive them from the field of all possibility. But these are ancient techniques too. There was breathing techniques that you just breathe in such a way that you move the breath and the craniosacral fluid until it pushes on the crystals in the pineal gland. And that mechanical pressure becomes electrical pressure. And then you send out this wave of energy that's so much bigger than you realize. I mean, these crystals are tiny in our pineal gland. They're microscopic, but crystals are able to go all the way to the Pleiades and back. I mean, the energy field that they send out is so giant for being so small.
So can anyone access these? Because you often read about oh, your pineal gland's been calcified, and there's no connection there.
Mhm.
Can anyone do it, or do you have to have it calcified, or?
Yeah, well, you know, calcium and fluoride love to stick together. They're like best friends, calcium and fluoride. So you see that inside fluorite. The crystal fluorite is a mix of calcium and fluoride. They love to bond together. They just have a really good, they're like puzzle pieces. So those calcite crystals in the pineal gland, there's a lot of calcium in those. So it's easy to attract fluorite or fluoride to that because it's like you're almost forming a little fluorite crystal in your brain, but you don't really want those calcifications around those crystals in your brain. So yeah, there is a we can look at scans and everything and see that there are calcifications in the pineal gland. But I don't really, so one thing that I like for this, but I want you to kind of hold it loosely. Because if you're like striving to clean your pineal gland and you kind of like miss the whole point. Because honestly, if you sit with yourself for 5 minutes and breathe in and out of your heart, you surpass it. It's just you go to you go to a higher frequency and it doesn't matter. I mean, just breathing in and out of your heart. So just look at this as a mechanical thing, but I really like the combination of phenakite. Phenakite's a crystal, and sandalwood. for the pineal gland. Sandalwood, you could use it as an essential oil, you could use it as an incense, but phenakite and sandalwood, like the pineal gland loves them. It's like, oh, I can experience my multidimensional self with that, because it's a multidimensional apparatus, really. It's a multidimensional gland. So I like that combination if you want to like give your pineal gland some love. And there's all these assaults on the outer world on our endocrine system, all the way through from pineal gland, pituitary gland, thyroid, and sadly, chemicals and toxins, heavy metals, electromagnetic energy, all these things seem to like gather onto the glands. Like they get attracted by the pineal gland, and it's like it goes there. So we do also want to protect those things too, if we can, and just try to, what are you drinking water that has a bunch of fluoride in it? It might actually be going up and bonding with that calcite in your brain.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So I've never heard of that crystal before. Was it
Oh, phenakite is
Phenica?
Phenakite. So the word kite is on the end, like you're flying a kite, and
Yeah.
then it's Phena, phenakite.
So where does that crystal come from? Because that's definitely not one I've heard of.
It's kind of rare. You will like it actually, because a lot of people feel like this really angelic energy. It has a really high vibrational energy. It's a lot of teachers who are tuning into it and people who are tapped in are feeling a very high vibrational energy coming from it. Comes from Nigeria, comes from Burma. It is a silica oxide with beryllium in it. So it's usually a little white crystal and it has a high vibration. So silica oxide with beryllium, if you add aluminum, then you have emerald, aquamarine, morganite, all those high vibrational crystals. But if you take out the aluminum and you just have beryllium and silica oxide, you have phenakite.
Ah,
Goes to the crown chakra.
I'm gonna have to look. I'm gonna have to look that one up. Add it to
I
my
think you'll
vast collection of crystals that I've actually got that I've picked up over the years, because they just kind of like landed in my field, and it's like,
yeah,
oh, okay, that one's just come in, and I've taken that one.
I think phenakite is in your field.
Yeah,
I think it did, even though it just came in through words.
yeah,
Phenakite.
phenakite.
Yes.
Yeah,
What do you think?
yeah. Yeah, I like that. Actually, that's something that's sort of like, yeah, it is, because if you technically can connect to the energy of any crystal without actually having the crystal there, can't you?
That's what they're so good at. It's like their material body is just one little piece of who they are, just like us, multidimensional beings.
Yeah, good
Mhm.
insight. I like that one. I like that one very, very much. And I remember watching something that you did the other day, and a sun moon crystal.
I did a little podcast on like the phases of the moon. Is that what you saw?
I can't remember, but it was a sun and moon crystal together,
Oh,
because
that's
I started hunting for it.
look, I actually have one right here.
Ah,
Actually watching, but so they discovered this sunstone, moonstone mixed
that's the
together.
one.
Yeah, we are in love with this at over here, because you can see the sunstone orange in it, and then you'll see the moonstone blue in it. And they discovered these two running together. And being a huge fan of feldspars, this is like feldspar tantra. When the sun and the moon come together too, you also get that vibe of like going beyond polarity, beyond good and bad, beyond yin and yang, and into the oneness. This is a great crystal. You can get it at our crystal shop. We have a little crystal shop, just so you know. The Clarity Crystal Shop. We have all these.
Excellent. And do you ship to the UK?
We do. We ship all over the world. And we have a shop because we were working with students so much, and students were always like, "Where are you getting that? Where do I get it?" So I started to buy more flats of stones and just sharing them with students in class. And then we started to get more, and then we were like, now we'll sell them online.
Yeah. Oh, that makes perfect sense, because sometimes you can spend ages looking for. I know sometimes I've wanted a crystal. I wanted a Super 7. Um,
Mhm.
and I eventually found somebody who had some. But I was searching for ages to try and find it. But then maybe it turned up at the right time, because that's when I was supposed to have
Yes.
used it. So anyone watching, if you've got any questions about crystals, please do feel to type them in, because you've got Sarah here, so use her knowledge.
There's no questions at all.
Yeah, with that. So, as you know, whilst we're waiting for any questions to come in, I do angel oracle card reads, and I do guided meditations. And each week I like to ask my guests whether they would like me to pull an angel oracle card for them or do a mini guided meditation for themselves and those watching. So Sarah, what would you like me to do?
Oh, I would definitely go with the divination. Let's talk to the spirits.
Okay, so funny enough, I have the cards here.
Okay, great. Funny enough.
Amazing, though, isn't it, that I always have them to hand. So it's always when I do the cards for guidance, it's as you were saying, it's authenticity, it's in the present moment. So I do the cards for what we need to know for our highest good at this moment in time. Because although I work with the past, when we go to the past, we heal and learn from the past so we can be fully present. And when I take people to the future, it's so we can understand and learn about the future, so that we come back to the present and be in our true strength. So what does Sarah and everyone who's watching this need to know for their highest good at this moment in time? What does Sarah and everyone who's watching this need to know for their highest good? Okay, so let's see what we get out. Okay, so we have got fogged in, go slow, take time.
Ooh, I love that card.
That's a pretty cool card, isn't it?
It feels like permission to go slow. You don't have to decide anything right now.
Exactly, yeah. So that's really what this card is saying. It is, you don't have to be rushing to get things done, to get yourself out there, to do everything at the moment in time. By going slower, things are actually going to come in a lot quicker and a lot sooner than you actually think, because you're actually taking the time to actually enjoy being in the present at this moment in time, without rushing forward, without seeing what is in that space around you. So you can't see the bigger picture because of the fogginess, but it's staying as what you've been talking about, staying true to yourself, your authenticity, what is around you and in you, rather than what's going out around the world, or going on around you. So it's really interesting that cards actually come out for what we've been talking about, and also for yourself as well, and everyone who's watching.
Yeah, that's actually a good divination, because my friend just said to me a couple days ago, she got really sick, so she was in bed for like a week or two. And she said in all that time in bed, she realized that she's going to go slow for the rest of the year and not plan anything or do anything for the rest of the year. And when she said that, I was like, oh, it sounded so good. It was like my body was like, oh, I want to do that too. And then you pulled that card. So I was like, oh.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I'll listen. I'll start doing it, honest.
Yeah, it's like, oh, can I listen? I must do it.
Well, that is the question. Can I listen? So,
Mhm.
I mean, are there any crystals that can help you go slow, to take time, to actually, yeah, just take that time to help you slow down a little bit?
Good question. You know, rutilated quartz has titanium in it, and rutilated quartz is a crystal that we work with to kind of slow down time so that we can get this moment to react consciously. Instead of just reacting all of a sudden, we can be like, okay, how do I want to look at this? And you need that slow down. It's almost like time stops, and you can be like, okay, how do I want to story this before I just story it automatically? So rutilated quartz is a stone that we use to slow things so that we can get that moment before we just automatically knee-jerk react to things.
Excellent. I think I might actually have some upstairs.
Yeah, that's such an important piece too, isn't it? Like,
Mm,
I heard this story once of this guy who his child was born, his mom and his wife was having the baby, and he was like at the birth, and the baby came out, and the doctor said, "Oh my gosh, your baby has a very serious, like, genetic rare disease and is not going to be well." And the dad had this crazy spiritual awakening at that moment. Time just stopped, and he heard the doctor say that, and time stopped, and he got this choice to decide how he was gonna respond to it. It was like things slowed down enough for him to be like, "How am I gonna respond to this moment, what this doctor's telling me?" And he decided he would respond to the moment by his son being so well, like that his son would be so well. And anyway, the son at 18 or 19 years old was like profound, record breaking, doing all these things with this rare disease that nobody had ever done before, like doing really well. And the dad's like, it's because something slowed down time at that moment. That doctor said it to me, and I was able to consciously choose how I was going to react. Isn't that weird?
wow. That sounds absolutely perfect and what we should be doing.
Yeah, I know. I want more of those times.
Oh, they would be absolutely brilliant. So, Sarah, do you have any insights or thoughts or last words of wisdom that you can leave our viewers?
Gosh, I would just say that, there's so many crystals out there that we don't know what to do or which one to pick. And then sometimes we don't know how to apply it. We're like, well, what do I do? Just sleep with it or something? And I would say if like this talk about authenticity resonated with you at all, if you're like, I really just want to be me, I just want to freaking be myself, then see what you feel drawn to, the mica, the obsidian, or the clear quartz, or if you're feeling more drawn to a red stone. And all you have to do is actually sit with it, meditate with it, tune into it. And I know that requires like slowing down and having a few meditations with it. But all these things are going to come up in your meditations where the crystal starts to, you know, the angels, the guides, all these beings around us, they encode crystals with their lessons, their frequencies, their transmissions, their consciousness. That's what they encode it into, so it's like all these different things that you need to hear from within you and from without and from the crystal itself are going to be able to come through. So just pick one and then give it some time to tune into it and see what happens with you and authenticity.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, that's yeah. I do need to. I don't spend enough time meditating with my crystals as I should do, and I know I should do. Because the crystal go, you're going to be meditating. I go, yeah, I will do. And then life gets busy. But yeah, slow down, start meditating with my crystals.
We're going to all slow down after today's talk.
Oh, totally. We need to, and it's autumn. So, it's coming into winter. So it's that time where we need to slow down anyway and get all nice and cozy. Well, if you're in a country that's getting cold, I should say.
Ours is.
Yes. So I hope everyone you've enjoyed this conversation and found it insightful, because I know I definitely have, and I've learned a lot more about crystals that I didn't even know. And I thought I knew quite a bit about crystals, but I've learned so much more today. So, Sarah, if people want to connect with you, how do they do that?
Upperclarity.com is my website. Upper UPPER Clarity CLARITY.com.
Perfect. And I will put that link into the comments so that anyone can go there, and from there they can find your Instagram, Facebook, etc. in there, can't they?
Yeah, there's podcasts, there's the crystal shop, there's all my classes that I teach. It's all there.
Yeah. And if you've never listened to any of Sarah's podcasts, do listen to them, because they are really fascinating, and you do learn, quite a lot about crystals that you've learned things about crystals that you thought you knew, but you don't know. I think is the person, and you learn about new crystals, like that, like the sun and the moon. I heard all about that through listening to Sarah's podcast. So do check that out. Cool. And of course, if you're now ready to remember your divine presence and step onto your spiritual multidimensional path, but you feel lost, confused, stuck, or alone, then please feel free to reach out and connect with me, and we can see where you are now and how you can move forward to actually take charge of your destiny so you can spread your wings and soar. And you can receive a free Future Life Progression recording to connect to discover your destiny by seeing into your future, to get guidance and clarity that you can use in your current life, as well as a couple of other free gifts by signing up to my email list. And of course, you can also find out more about Angel Wings membership, which will help you come out of the spiritual closet and enjoy creating life on your own terms. And the waitlist is now open, and there's going to be a masterclass. So do sign up to find out more about. And I'm really looking forward to the masterclass. I'm creating things as we speak for it. So again, everyone, thank you so much for watching. And I'd like to invite you to share this video, as I'm sure there are more people who feel lost and want to get clear on their destiny just like you. And of course, if you are watching this on YouTube, then please feel free to subscribe and hit that bell button to be notified when the show goes live, or I post new guided meditations, and check out Sarah's YouTube channel. And again, subscribe, like, comment, and share, because every time you do, that really helps with the algorithms and helps our messages get out to more people out there to help them on their journey. And you can be part of that, helping them to get on their journey. And again, thank you so much, Sarah. It's been absolutely amazing. And thank you to everyone who's watched and said hello on here. And I look forward to you all joining me same time, same place next week. Take care. Bye.